So glad you can join us. Here's what we have for you. Promises and priorities as Mark Carney and his cabinet chart their game plan.
A focus on an industrial strategy.
How Ottawa hopes to tackle tariffs and the Trump factor.
Time for action now.
Why Jeffrey Epstein survivors are compiling a list of their own.
There have not been controlled trials in humans.
Plus, polishing up on a chemical banned in Europe, but not in Canada.
CTV National News with Sandy Ronaldo.
And we begin with breaking news of a tragic accident in Portugal. Officials say 15 people were killed in a funicular crash. That's a type of cable railway system. Eyewitness video show emergency workers on the scene where Lisbon's Gloria funicular car derailed. Now, it normally carries people up and down a hillside in the Portuguese capital and is very popular with tourists. Some foreign nationals are said to be among the victims. At least 18 people were also injured. Now back here at home, a big meeting in Toronto, the start of a two-day retreat for the Prime Minister and his cabinet. They are here to focus on major projects, trade war strategy, housing, the inner circle looking at priorities as they count down to the opening of Parliament. CTV's Judy Trin now on the tough choices to be made with the economy front and center. Hi, Judy.
Hi, Sandy. You know, Mark Carney plans to introduce a slew of programs to jumpstart the economy, but the question remains, how will the government pay for them? Ahead of his cabinet planning forum, the Prime Minister disclosed a top-level conversation.
I last spoke to the President Monday evening. We spoke at length on a wide range of issues, including on trade, but geopolitical other issues.
Over the next 2 days, members of cabinet will get more details about what Mark Carney learned in his unscheduled conversation with Donald Trump. The U.S. needs to start public consultations on the Canada-U.S.-Mexico trade agreement in the next few weeks.
The focus of the government from the start has been on what we can control.
The cabinet agenda includes deciding which major national projects, from ports to pipelines, to put on the fast track. Ministers will also discuss the rollout of Carney's Build Canada Homes initiative and how to build affordable homes on federal land. The finance minister has yet to map out the costs.
It's going to be an ambitious budget, but at the same time with a fiscal discipline, you know.
This budget is about fairness for every generation.
The Liberal government has not passed a budget since April 2024. A budget is expected to be tabled in October. There will likely be public sector cuts in order to pay for investments.
The federal government has been growing spending as a whole at over 7% a year on average for over a decade. That's twice the rate of growth of the economy on average. It's not a sustainable situation. So we need to rein in spending. We need to find efficiencies.
Over the next 2 days, the cabinet will also hear from polling experts who will tell them about the changing priorities of Canadians, as well as an American expert who wrote Project 2025. It's widely considered the blueprint for the Trump administration so that the cabinet can get insight into the future of U.S.-Canada relations. Sandy.
Okay, Judy, thanks for this. CTV's chief political correspondent, Vashi Kapelos, is also in Toronto, so let's catch up with Vashi now. Okay, Vashi, what has to come out of this retreat to indicate progress or success?
Well, I think the federal government and the Prime Minister more specifically, Sandy, have to say something at the end of this. And I say that because in the past few years, I remember covering these so-called cabinet retreats. I know they don't want to call this one a retreat, but that's what they were called under former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. And when the primary narrative emerging from those retreats was there was nothing tangible to announce, it ended up being a net negative for the government at the time. So I do think that they need to say something specific about what they're going to do this fall. I think that might come Friday morning. But they can't just say, we're working on it. Canadians so far have told them that's not good enough.
We heard Mark Carney say that his Monday conversation with Donald Trump was good. It was lengthy, but you have to wonder, certainly Canadians are anxious about the economy. How is Mark Carney going to convince them that he's not being played by the U.S. president?
Well, it sounds cheesy, Sandy, but the proof will really be in the pudding. And there were some, I think, interesting and discernible things that the Prime Minister said today about that conversation, namely that the primary focus was on the sectoral tariffs that still remain, so steel, aluminum, and copper. If the Prime Minister is able to significantly reduce those tariffs on behalf of Canada, I think Canadians will give him a lot of leeway and certainly will think that that is a win for this country. If, however, those punishing tariffs end up remaining, that could be a different story, Sandy.
Okay, Vashi, as always, thanks so much. Well, another key meeting today, this one, the Assembly of First Nations annual general meeting with hundreds of chiefs from across the country coming to the table to debate key issues, especially the infrastructure projects bill C5. CTV's Alex Carpa is in Winnipeg. Okay, Alex, take us through what was up for discussion today.
Sandy, a lot of important topics are set to be debated throughout today and the rest of the week. Topics such as health care, the right to housing, the right to clean drinking water, the federal budget, and child welfare are set to be discussed by chiefs from coast to coast. But no other topic has garnered more attention than Bill C5. This legislation allows projects like pipelines to be fast-tracked without much consultation, and this has received a lot of pushback from a lot of First Nations leaders. National Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Nepenak says it's important for First Nations voices to be part of the decision-making process.
The way the Act was introduced has caused concern for many chiefs. This Assembly is an opportunity for chiefs to deliberate and to provide direction moving forward.
Crown Indigenous Relations Minister Rebecca Alty did speak, and she told the delegation that Canada's economy needs to be improved, and with the federal government's plans to move forward with major projects, she said this will be done in consultation with First Nations peoples. Sandy.
Okay, CTV's Alex Carpa. You'll recall that Ontario Premier Doug Ford got a lot of attention yesterday for pouring out the contents of a bottle of Crown Royal whiskey. He's annoyed over parent company Diageo's decision to move a bottling plant to the United States. But Diageo doesn't just operate in Ontario. It is a major multinational with many labels. CTV's Adrian Gabriel now on how Doug Ford's protest is going down outside Ontario. Adrian.
Sandy, as cries grow louder here in Ontario for a boycott of Crown Royal from liquor stores like the one behind me, there are concerns that employees and farmers in other provinces could be the ones on the receiving end.
So this is what I think about Crown Royal. That's what they could do. And I think everyone else should do the same thing.
Pouring out his frustrations, Premier Doug Ford's photo op was seen across the country.
It is a publicity stunt in a sense. It is good TV. And I do see potentially a boycott, right, picking up steam. Just as we saw when the United States put tariffs on us and we took the booze off the shelves.
Some members of provincial parliament in southwestern Ontario are calling for just that, for Crown Royal to be removed from liquor stores. Though there are concerns that Ford's move could spill over and hurt Canadian workers. Crown Royal's parent company, Diageo, has large distilleries and bottling facilities in Valleyfield, Quebec, and Gimli, Manitoba. Diageo directly employs more than 500 people across Canada, while supporting more than 9,700 jobs through its distributions operations as well as the retail and hospitality sectors. Roughly 80% of rye, corn, and barley used in Crown Royal is sourced from Manitoba and from farms in other Canadian provinces.
Could a boycott actually backfire and hurt Canadians?
That's to be determined, right? That's to be seen. If it's an effective boycott, sure.
We spoke over the phone with grain farmers in Manitoba today who echo those concerns. Union leaders are also worried that with one bottling facility moving to the U.S., other distilleries could follow, with even American grains being purchased to further cut costs. Sandy.
Okay, Adrian, thanks. Well, now that he's back in business, Pierre Poilievre has been busy calling for changes to federal policy. First, it was amendments to the criminal code. Now the Conservatives are calling on the government to end the temporary foreign workers program. CTV's Rachel Aiello picks up this file. Okay, Rachel, tell us more.
Sandy, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is pushing for temporary foreign worker permits to be wound down until the program ceases to exist. So those largely low-paying jobs can be filled by young and unemployed Canadians. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre wants to abolish Canada's temporary foreign worker program
and to stop issuing visas for any new temporary foreign workers coming into the country.
Prime Minister Mark Carney said today Cabinet is discussing how the program is working, but asserted it'll continue to play a part in Canada's immigration system.
When I talk to businesses around the country, particularly in Quebec, but elsewhere across the country, their number one issue is tariffs, and their number two issue is access to temporary foreign workers.
Poilievre's plan includes a carve-out for agricultural labor and an up to 5-year transition period for regions with ultra-low unemployment.
The turnover is insanely high. It's really hard to fill those labor needs domestically.
This 8th-generation farmer said the suggestion has tilled up a lot of concern in his community.
I don't know how you do away with a temporary foreign worker program in totality without potentially harming the agriculture streams.
Migrants' rights advocates say what Poilievre is proposing wouldn't come close to solving this country's employment challenges and accused him of leveraging division over immigration to get back in the national conversation.
Temporary foreign workers are in agriculture, they're chefs, they're in fishery workers. These are not summer youth jobs, right? So linking the two is as bizarre as sort of linking, the wages in Ontario with the weather in Saskatchewan.
The Federal Immigration Department said today that fewer new temporary workers entered Canada in the first half of this year compared to 2024, and continued reductions are planned. Sandy?
All right, Rachel in Ottawa. Both Mark Carney and Donald Trump reacted today to China's massive display of military hardware. President Xi hosted the parade and was joined by 20 world leaders, including Russia's Vladimir Putin and North Korea's Kim Jong-un. Notably absent, Donald Trump. CTV senior political correspondent Mike LeCouture on the message sent to the U.S. president.
Perhaps more impressive than the display of military might was the parade of a new political partnership. The leaders of China, Russia, and North Korea walking shoulder to shoulder, as President Xi Jinping declared, the rejuvenation of the Chinese nation is unstoppable. President Donald Trump watched the speech and claims the three nations were conspiring against the U.S.
I thought it was a beautiful ceremony. I thought it was very, very impressive. But I understood the reason they were doing it, and they were hoping I was watching, and I was watching.
Military analysts warn calling it a conspiracy will only escalate tensions.
What you really want to do is tone things down, accept that, yes, they do have advanced military equipment and that China is a rising power.
Some former diplomats say the image of those leaders standing together was even more blunt.
All this was a clear message to Donald Trump to show him that his policies are not working very well.
The parade also got the attention of Prime Minister Mark Carney.
Is the world a more dangerous place than it was during the 90s and early 2000s? Yes, it is.
But Carney said Canada is taking a more pragmatic approach to China, the world's second largest economy.
We have differences with China, different approaches to a variety of things, but they are our second largest trading partner. And there are areas where we can cooperate.
Carney adds that cooperation must also respect Canada's sovereignty and security. Sandy?
CTV's Mike LeCouture in Ottawa. An extraordinary scene on the steps of the U.S. Capitol building today. Some of sex offender Jeffrey Epstein's survivors spoke publicly for the first time, saying they're compiling a list of Epstein's clients and associates. CTV's Abigail Beeman with their stories and the push for greater transparency. Abigail.
Sandy, some of these women were speaking publicly as Jeffrey Epstein survivors for the very first time in a press conference pushing for transparency on the Epstein files.
I have never been more scared in my life than I was that first time that he hurt me.
One by one, self-described Jeffrey Epstein victims spoke up on Capitol Hill.
We were groomed, we were manipulated, and we were taken advantage of.
Sharing some of their abuse at the hands of convicted sex offender and disgraced financier, whose 2019 death in custody was ruled a suicide by hanging.
He gave me an ultimatum. Either you come here and massage me when I call you, or you bring me friends of yours to massage.
The group called on Congress to support a bipartisan motion and release all unclassified records about the case.
Transparency is justice. Release the files. End the secrecy, and stand with us in declaring that no one, no billionaires, no politicians, not world leaders, is above the law.
Tuesday, the House Oversight Committee released 33,000 pages of documents, the vast majority of which were previously released.
We're having the most successful 8 months of any president ever. And that's what I want to talk about. That's what we should be talking about, not the Epstein hoax.
And this is not a hoax. We are real human beings. This is real trauma. It's being gutted from the inside out.
The survivors say they're working on their own list of Epstein associates or clients frustrated by inaction, but then suggested they may not release names, concerned for their own safety. Sandy?
Abigail, thank you. The woman known as the ketamine queen pleaded guilty today to selling Matthew Perry, the drug that killed him. Jasveen Sangha made good on a plea deal she signed last month by pleading guilty to 5 federal charges. Perry's mother, Suzanne, was in the courtroom. The Canadian actor was found dead at his LA home in 2023. He had struggled with addiction and was using ketamine to treat depression. Coming up, nailing down a chemical concern.
It's in a number of gel manicures.
Why Europe is banning a key cosmetic ingredient, but not Canada. A common ingredient in gel nail polish called TPO has just been banned by the European Union. Now, recent studies link the chemical to health concerns. It's leading to questions about why TPO isn't banned in Canada and whether it should be. CTV's BC Bureau Chief Andrew Johnson is on this file. Okay, Andrew, talk to us about the concerns.
Sandy, experts still aren't sure if there is a risk for people who get their nails done at a salon. But animal studies were concerning enough for the EU to go forward with a ban.
The key ingredient in question you can find in many kinds of gel nail polish is trimethylbenzyl diphenylphosphine oxide, known as TPO. TPO causes the polish to harden and gives nails that glossy shine when exposed to UV light, a process known as curing. But studies in animals have raised concern about its effect on fertility and reproductive health.
This ingredient, TPO, has been found to have negative reproductive effects in animal studies. To my knowledge, there have not been controlled trials in humans, but due to the concern in animal studies, this is what inspired the caution.
The EU historically has taken a more aggressive stance on chemicals in cosmetics, often banning substances that pose a theoretical risk to human health before studies are done on people. We reached out to Health Canada but haven't received a response. One dermatologist is not expecting a ban in Canada anytime soon.
There are regulatory bodies that will have to really do a deep dive into the data to decide if this is a true real-world risk that could be problematic for humans.
She points out there is already a well-established cancer risk from repeated exposure to ultraviolet light produced by those lamps used to cure nails.
For now, if you're concerned, dermatologists tell me most popular gel nail polish brands offer TPO-free alternatives. You can ask for at your favorite salon. Sandy.
All right, Andrew, good information. Still ahead, a waterless state of emergency. How a small town is handling a second crisis. A state of emergency remains in effect in Conception Bay South, still recovering from a wildfire, but also dealing with the loss of water supply after a pipe broke. CTV's Garrett Barry now on where things stand as of now. Okay, Garrett.
Sandy, some overnight repairs mean these water tanks are slowly refilling here in Conception Bay South. but even more slowly than initially expected. So without consistent access to clean water for drinking and hygiene, schools remained shut all day today, and businesses were forced to close down again.
We had to get rid of a lot of product that we had on the shelves, you know, telling our staff to go home, and we don't know if you're going to get back here tomorrow to work.
A blow to business, but one that this owner says is ultimately understandable, given just how much this area has been through in the past month. 2 fires in August threatened this community, putting thousands on evacuation alert. Many of those people got nervous when taps ran dry overnight.
A bit of a worry in the beginning because no one knew where it was going.
Treatment plant in St. John's. The break in the water line was fixed overnight, but water is still flowing slowly today. These tanks are very large. It will be some time before they're completely refilled. So the town council here is asking residents to continue to conserve water tonight. Sandy.
Okay, Garrett, thanks. Large parts of BC remain in the grips of record-setting heat and uncomfortable smoke. There are heat warnings in 9 areas across the province, and multiple communities have hit daily record highs, including fire-ravaged Lytton, where the mercury rose to more than 40 degrees. Meantime, there are 13 air quality advisories in place. Currently, over 150 wildfires are still burning in the province. And we will be right back. One of the biggest entertainment events in Canada kicks off tomorrow for a special milestone edition. This will be the 50th anniversary of the Toronto International Film Festival. A half-century of premieres, big stars, red carpets, crowds, all descending on the city. And tomorrow, we'll take this newscast into the heart of it, broadcasting from downtown Toronto in honor of the movie that kicks it all off. It is the opening night film, a documentary on the life of a Canadian icon, and it is called John Candy, I Like Me. On the program tomorrow, I'll be speaking with his children, Jennifer and Chris Candy, and the film's producer, Ryan Reynolds, along with director Colin Hanks. And more than 30 years ago, I spent some time with a famous comedic actor when he was trying his hand at directing.
It's relaxing for you, is that?
Yeah. It's really just it's another angle on it. You're now going to be our other news team.
Happy Body 3.
So you'll just be pretending you're doing a...
Like it or not.
Like it or not, you're in.
Pretend we're working?
Yeah, you're covering this story as well.
Okay. That might be hard, though.
So we'll have you guys in this as well.
So this is life imitating life.
That's it.
Ooh, I can handle this.
Action, Sandy.
I am acting. This is it. Okay, if you can't get enough John Candy, more tomorrow. Thank you for joining us this Wednesday. I'm Sandy Ronaldo. Your local CTV News is coming up. See you tomorrow with a special edition of CTV National News.